We'll have up to 2 minutes to respond.
Foreign policy now.
Well, I feel fortunate and I'm honored that I serve on the House Armed Services Committee. My father was a survivor of Pearl Harbor, and as I was successful in winning this seat, that and a number of other reasons, I sought out on a seat on the House Armed Services Committee. And in that capacity, I have seen the opportunities and challenges that we have daily, how best to protect our country. I have been to Afghanistan 4 times in the past several years. I have visited Walter Reed several times, and we see, one, the extraordinary challenges we face in Afghanistan, as it is the war we've been in longest in American history. And as I go to Walter Reed and see veterans around this extraordinary district, you see firsthand the consequences of service, both to those who serve and to their families. And we know the cost of war in sheer numbers. So, for example, as I mentioned earlier, it costs us $300 million a day, $9 billion a month in Afghanistan. So I believe it's time to end that war, bring our soldiers home, and turn it over to our Afghan national security forces, police forces that we have invested so much in training. It's time for the Afghan government to do its job.
Mr. Golnik, 2 minutes.
I believe that stability at home begins with stability abroad. We finished the conflict in Iraq, and we're winding down our conflict in Afghanistan right now. I know that some people believe we should bring our troops home immediately. I personally do not. And I don't think we should put a deadline and announce a deadline to our enemies on when we're going to be coming home. The challenge that we face in Afghanistan is that we need a comprehensive peace solution between Pakistan and India. No one's talked about this. But until we have that, this is just going to be a Band-Aid, and the Afghans are going to continue to struggle to try to create a stable democratic government. And I believe that the way we can achieve this is if we have a comprehensive peace solution. Pakistan looks at the Afghanistan situation through the lens of India. They're afraid about being encircled, and this is something that we need to address. And I think we should take the lead on this. You know, like so many things, domestically but also internationally, this administration has chosen to lead from behind. And I don't think we need to look any further than what's just transpired in the last few weeks internationally. It continues to transpire. It could be getting worse when we don't take a firm stand. This doesn't mean sending troops overseas, but it does mean making sure that people know we mean business. I'm not talking about being a bully, but bullies don't get beaten up. So I feel very strongly that we need to maintain our leadership. We haven't chosen to be a leader. We are a leader, and those are the facts. And we need to make sure we stand up, lead in the free world as we're supposed to, and make no bones about it that we will protect ourselves and our citizens and our officials, especially on days like 9/11. Thank you.
Ms. Tsongas, 1 minute, please. Please, no applause. We'll stay back till the end. Ms. Tsongas, 1 minute.
I'd like to address the issue of Iran. We have the strongest sanctions that we've ever imposed on any country in place now. I've been proud to support that as a member of Congress. I think we have to give those sanctions a time to work. But our president has said that a nuclear Iran is not acceptable. We know that it poses an existential threat to the state of Israel, would be very destabilizing to the Middle East as a whole, and would generally come back to be a challenge to us here in the United States. But those sanctions are robust. Our diplomatic effort should be extraordinary and unwavering, and we should give those sanctions time to work. The challenges of the Middle East are great. I think we saw, as we encouraged the overthrow of a despotic leader in Libya as it has transitioned, without the loss of American life as it was moving through that process, but that we still remain, our citizens remain at risk. And I do believe the situation in Libya with the loss of...
Thank you. Mr. Golnik, 1 minute.
We have had sanctions on Iran for the past 8 years, and it hasn't accomplished anything. And right now, our president refused to meet with the Prime Minister of Israel, and he refuses to redline. Now, if the Iranians were making nuclear materials for peaceful purposes, they wouldn't be doing it in bunkers below the ground. So I say the time to draw a line in the sand is now. Iran is a failed state. Iran exports terrorism and weapons around the world, and we don't need them doing that with nuclear weapons. We know they support Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We know they support Hezbollah, southern Israel, and we need to get behind the one ray of light in the Middle East, which is Israel, and they are our single biggest ally there. So there's no bigger friend of Israel than I am. We need a red line immediately to the Iranians and draw a line in the sand. I'm not saying committed troops, I'm not even saying attack Iran ourselves. The Israelis will do that. We need to support Israel, because no one knows more than the Israelis what happens when you let a despotic regime run wild. Thank you.
1 more minute each on foreign policy, Ms. Tsongas.
Well, I'd like to finish my comment on Libya, which is that I think we saw with the tragic loss of life of Ambassador Stevens that there are questions that need to be asked in the federal government. I think our president is looking into that, but the reality is it does raise questions about how we protect Americans in our consulates and our embassies to make sure that as we are in these countries that are still moving ahead, that we have adequate protections for those who serve our country. And I do believe that when we draw red lines, we have to be sure what that means. I think our president has made it very clear that a nuclear-armed Iran is unacceptable. We all understand the tremendous threats it poses to our country. But as Tip O'Neill famously said, it's easier to get into war or into a situation we need than it is to get out. You need to know absolutely what would be happening. But I support our president as he acknowledges that a nuclear Iran is never acceptable, and the military option cannot be taken off the table.
Mr. Golnik, no applause, please. Mr. Golnik, 1 minute.
I think that we need red lines in Iran, and I think that we needed red lines yesterday. We need to draw a line in the sand. The Iranians allowed their president to come to the UN and make a speech. Once again, if they mean Israel, they mean business. They are trouble. They are a failed state. And the longer we wait, the more emboldened they get. We need these red lines immediately. And we also need to find out what exactly happened in Libya. We've heard a number of things coming out of this administration. First, they said it was a random act of violence. I'm sorry. You don't have a random act of violence with people who appear with RPGs and other explosive devices and automatic weapons. What happened there, and how did this occur? And how did it occur on a day like 9/11 that is probably one of the most sacrosanct in this country's history? Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to move